Good evening. My name is Elena and I invite you to listen to a Nepali folktale before bedtime. The Tale, The Living in the Land of the Dead. One day, the driver brought the elephant to a watering hole at a wheel dam. And there, by chance, was the lord of the underworld, Yamaraj. The lord decided to take a stroll on earth. Yamaraj looked at the elephant, amazed. The creature obeys. Such a huge creature, and yet it indeed obeys the little man sitting on its back. The elephant drank and obeyed the man. Yamaraj approached and asked, and then it even allowed itself to be tied to a post, just like a dog. Yamaraj couldn't hold back, approached the animal and asked, "Listen, you are huge and strong, so why do you blindly obey? So why do you blindly obey to the one who is small and weak? Don't you want to break free and run away to be free, so you don't have to obey anyone?" "Oh Lord," the elephant replied, "do not judge what is unknown to you. For in your kingdom there are only the dead. They really do have some strength. That's why you torment them as you please. A living person, even if not very tall, is strong in mind. All animals, even ones as big as me, obey him. You'll come across a living person someday, not a dead one, and then you'll understand what that's like. Let's see then, who will overcome whom?" Yamaraj didn't like these words, and he lost the desire to continue the conversation. He stepped away from the elephant and headed back to his domain. Some time passed. Yamaraj got tired of torturing sinners. Suddenly, he remembered what the elephant had told him. The Lord called his servants and ordered them to bring a living person to the underground kingdom of the dead. They went down to earth and were the first to see the scribe. The scribe fell asleep on the bed, with an inkpot and quill in one hand and a sheet of paper in the other. "This one will do just fine for our master," the servants of Yama decided. They grabbed the scribe along with the bed and rushed off to the underground kingdom. They rushed like crazy, shaking the bed so much that the scribe woke up. He sees that an unclean force is dragging him. He doesn't know where, and at first he was a bit scared. But the scribe was not one to be easily intimidated. He gathered his courage and started asking his bearers where they were in such a hurry. The scribe heard that he was taken by the order of Yamaraj and felt downcast. But was he endowed with human reason for nothing? He thought and finally came up with an idea. He dipped the quill in the ink pot and wrote the following on the sheet of paper. "The Supreme Lord Vishnu, Lord of the underworld kingdom of Yamaranjo. I've heard rumors about you, Yamaraj, that you want to take a living person into your domain. It seems you've forgotten that you are only supposed to take the dead. To remind you of this, I decided to take on the form of a living person and personally present myself before you. All right then, I won't reprimand you in front of your subjects, which is why I wrote this message. But don't expect forgiveness, and as soon as you see me, go immediately to face your fate. To me in the heavens, I'll take care of your kingdom until we meet. Watch your step on the road, and don't let anyone know that I was underground. That's all." Meanwhile, the attendants ran to the underworld and set up a bed with the scribe in front of Yamaraja. Without wasting any time, the scribe jumped to his feet and handed his letter to the Lord of the Dead. Yamaraja read it and immediately ordered everyone to leave. And when the attendants left, he got down from his throne and bowed his head before the scribe. What are you waiting for? Follow the command. We'll meet in the heavens, the man said majestically. Yamaraja called his servants, ordered them to obey the newcomer from earth, and hurried to the domain of God Vishnu. The scribe immediately commanded to stop the hellish tortures and free all the sinners. After a while, Yamaraja arrived. Before the heavenly abode, the Supreme appeared. He saw Vishnu, the trembling lord of the underworld, and exclaimed, "Oh, Yama, what news do you bring to me? Has disaster struck in your realm?" "Oh, great God." Yamaraja was surprised. "You yourself commanded me to come here. As you can see, I have fulfilled your will. I know my great sin, and yet I ask you, O Supreme, to turn your anger into mercy." With these words, Yamaraja bowed his head before Vishnu. But the Supreme looked at the frightened Yama in surprise, and only when the Lord of the Underworld recounted everything that had happened to him, Vishnu finally understood the reason for his fear and burst out laughing. "But it's also about your actions, Yama. Did you want to test your strength against a living person? Well, he taught you a lesson. As you can see, it's not so easy to deal with a living being endowed with the power of the human mind. It's no coincidence that humans are considered the smartest in the world. That's why everyone submits to his will. Go back home and safely, respectfully send off the living person, back to Earth, where he belongs." A Nepalese folk tale, The Stargazer. Upon a time lived Stargazer. In those lands where he lived, one year there was a severe drought. The rain just wouldn't come. A severe drought. The rain just wouldn't come. The land dried up so much that people couldn't plant rice in the fields. The sky should have been covered with clouds long ago and poured down moisture, but the sun continued to scorch mercilessly. Fear gripped the farmers. That's when the Stargazer placed a board in front of him, sprinkled sand on it, and drew the positions of the stars and constellations. He was trying to determine the time when the rain would finally come. The Stargazer thought and calculated for a long time until he realized that the rain would fall today. He immediately set aside his board, took a hoe in his hands, and went out to the field. The Stargazer hoeing his field. When Indra, king of gods, became human, he descended to earth. He wanted to see how people lived, and he descended to earth. He decided to find out how people were living. Indra is watching. The Stargazer is working in the field, sweating. "What are you doing here?" he asks. "I'm just loosening the soil." "I want to plant rice seedlings," replied the Stargazer. "Why are you in such a hurry?" "When will the sky be covered with clouds?" said Indra. "I'm a Stargazer, and that's why I know when the rain is supposed to fall. I calculated that it would be this evening, so I'm hurrying not to miss the time." "Look at you, what an expert. There will be no rain today?" Indra became furious and immediately returned to the heavens. "All the water belongs to me," he thought, "and some pathetic man, the one who calls himself an astrologer, decides when it should rain. Let's see how he will plant the rice if I don't send rain to the earth. Well, I'll just take it. Yes, I'll order that all the water be hidden in my underground palace." Indra immediately called his servants and ordered them to carry all the water to the palace. Yes, so that not a single drop spills on the earth. Indra's servants began to carry the water in large buckets. Yes, one bucket was accidentally knocked over. Water poured down onto the earth. So the astrologer planted rice in his field. How much Indra didn't want to take him up. But still, the man turned out to be right. The Nepali folktale The Sparrow and the Pea. Once upon a time lived a sparrow, and since it was in his nature to be a bird, he spent all his time flying in search of food. Unlike all the other birds, the sparrow was indeed very clean. He would never take anything in his beak until he has bathed and cleaned his little feet. And in his nest, everywhere you looked, there was cleanliness and order. One morning, the sparrow was lucky enough to find a pea. The sparrow was delighted that he didn't have to fly for breakfast. But unfortunately, he hadn't had the chance to bathe and clean his little feet yet. That's why he flew with the pea in his beak to the river first. He placed the pea on the paving stone and hopped over to the water. He bathed, returned to where he had left the pea, and there was nothing on the stone. The sparrow searched for his pea thoroughly, going around the stone several times, looking under it and checking all around. The cursed pea seems to have vanished into thin air. But I placed the pea right on this stone. Where could it have gone? Could it have... The sparrow was puzzled. Just at that moment, a carpenter was walking across the bridge with a saw in his hands. Maybe the pea rolled under the wooden planks of the bridge. A thought flashed through the sparrow's mind, and he immediately flew up to the carpenter. "Listen, brother, have you come across a pea that I lost anywhere? Please kindly help me find it, or I'll be left hungry." "Do you think I have nothing else to do?" The carpenter got angry. "Lost it yourself? You look for your own pea?" And he walked on. What was the poor sparrow to do? He started looking for the lost pea again. But, alas, it was all in vain. After a while, a soldier appeared on the bridge. The sparrow immediately flew up to him and started to plead. "Brother soldier, would you be so kind as to help me? My pea rolled away somewhere, and I just can't find it. And that carpenter didn't want to help me. Please punish him." But the soldier didn't want to help the little bird either. He went on his way. "Don't wait for help from anyone, Sparrow." He threw it away as a farewell. The sparrow was saddened. "No one wants to help me, poor thing," he thought. And then he saw an officer in front of him. "Mr. Officer?" the sparrow pleaded. "Punish your soldier. I'm in trouble, and I asked him to help me, but he didn't want to." The officer turned out to be even worse than the soldier. He didn't even bother to look at the poor bird and just quickened his pace. The sparrow lost all hope of finding the pea. He was already thinking about whether he should go look for another breakfast. But at that moment, he saw that a minister was approaching the bridge. "I'll try my luck one more time," thought the sparrow, and began to plead with the minister. "Your Excellency, please have mercy on the poor sparrow. That officer refused to help me. Could you punish him?" With all his heart, the sparrow hoped that this time his request would not go unanswered. But the minister not only didn't help him, but he also scolded the poor petitioner very angrily. And then the sparrow firmly decided not to ask anyone for help anymore. But at that moment, the king himself was passing over the bridge. How could I let such an opportunity slip away? The sparrow thought to himself that the king would surely punish those who dared to offend the little bird. The sparrow respectfully approached the king, bowed low, and said, "Oh, great sovereign! 1,000 bows to you. I am a poor bird. I beg you, please, Almighty, for help. I lost the pea that I had saved for breakfast. No one I turned to for help, showed me any sympathy, or helped me in my trouble. Look into my case and punish those who ignored my request." And while waiting for a response, the sparrow respectfully stepped back. But the ruler, the one sitting on the back of the large elephant, pretended not to hear anything and calmly rode past. The sparrow had no one else to rely on. If the king didn't pay attention, who would help him? Who else can I expect help from? Who is the sparrow? Who will help? And at that moment, a little ant was passing by. "What you standing here for, like a statue?" he squeaked. "Don't you see that the Raja is followed by his entourage? They'll crush you like a bug." "I see," replied the sparrow. "Well, let them crush me. I don't care, poor me, there's no way to live. No one wants to help." And the sparrow told the ant in detail how he lost the pea, how he turned to the Stella, then to a soldier, to an officer, to a minister, and even to the Raja himself. "Well, they didn't help. So, I'll help you find the lost pea," said the ant, and rushed to catch up with the elephant on which the Raja was sitting. He caught up with the elephant and jumped onto its leg. He crawled up, reached the elephant's ear, and with all his might, he shouted, "Hey, brother elephant. Well, please tell your Raja to help this sparrow, or else I'll crawl into your trunk and bite you. And if the Raja doesn't see fit to help, just drop him to the ground." The elephant had to carry the Raja himself. He was extremely proud of it. But could he completely ignore the little ant who menacingly threatened to crawl into his trunk and bite him? "Oh, my lord," the elephant spoke to the Raja, "you must help this sparrow. Otherwise the ant will bite me and I'll have to drop you to the ground." Could the Raja really ignore such words? He really didn't want to fall into the dust in front of the whole entourage. He told the minister, "You must help the sparrow or be replaced. Please at once help the poor sparrow find the lost pea. Otherwise I'll have to think about replacing my minister." The minister, in turn, immediately called the officer and said to him, "Well, quickly help the sparrow. Otherwise watch out for me." The officer immediately called the soldier and ordered him to do what the sparrow had asked. The soldier immediately set off in search of the carpenter. By that time he had already gone far away. The soldier stumbled as he tried to catch up with him. "Hey, dear. Find the pea that the sparrow lost." The carpenter searched, found it, and returned it. "Otherwise we'll hang you by the bridge." The carpenter searched for the pea for a long time, but he eventually found it and gave it to the sparrow. That's how it all turned out. And the sparrow didn't go hungry that day.